All right, we're good. Summer McIntosh, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for doing this. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for having me.
Yeah. So, you said you were down in Florida. Your family has a house down there?
No, so right now we're just renting. I'm in Sarasota, Florida,
Hmm.
and I'm just with my mom now. And my dad and my sister are still in Toronto. Um, and my sister, I think she's heading off to Europe pretty soon for a skating competition. So
Yeah, I was going to say, you have a pretty talented family all around. You and your sister. Your sister is some sort of superstar skater.
yeah, she's on the national team for pairs figure skating.
Wow.
Um, I actually did figure skating a while back, but she was obviously way better than me, and she's very good now, and I'm so proud of her. And the things she does are just mind blowing.
Did
Um,
she swim?
Yeah, she swam too, but she was actually better than me. And
What?
yeah, it was weird, like how I picked swimming over skating because I was pretty good at skating, but I just didn't like the judge aspect of it. I was just like
Mm,
to flip the clock, so
mm.
kind of funny.
So how then did you end up? I mean, I guess that's how you ended up going that way. How did she end up going the other way?
I don't know. I just think she's more built for something like skating. Like I'm pretty tall, like for a skater, I don't think it would really work. She's pretty small. She's like
Hmm.
5'4", I think. I'm like
Oh,
5'9", so
okay.
um, and I just don't think I have like the mentality to like be thrown up in the air with like knives on my feet. So I don't think I can handle
Knives,
it.
knives on your feet. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. You just had a birthday, by the way, right? You turned
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, I just turned 16 August 18th.
Wow, congrats. Okay, there you go. Did you do anything special?
I had a birthday party at my cottage, which has kind of been like a tradition that I've done every year. Just bring some of my swimming friends up and just hang out.
Okay, cool.
Mm.
Well, we've got a few people in watching live right now. If you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. I'd love to get a few questions going, and every now and then my eyes will go that way. So if you see my eye, I'm looking at the I'm looking at the questions. Everyone says to me, "What are you always looking at?" I'm looking over here at the questions. So, well, listen, you had kind of an incredible summer. I guess at the start of the summer, I had a conversation with your old coach, Ben Titley, and there was, I mean, I guess a little bit of concern at that point in time. You'd grown up with him, you'd had a lot of success with him, and then he moves on, goes somewhere else, and then it was like, well, what's Summer going to do, and how's she going to cope? You know, as a young girl who, had relied on one person at that point in time. How did you manage that period of time?
It was definitely kind of hard, but the whole HBCO team really kind of leaned on each other for that
Hmm.
kind of hard time, and
Yeah.
I think that's what really helped everyone kind of get through it, and we performed really well. And of course, Ryan, the assistant coach and now the head coach of HBCO, is amazing with all the swimmers, and was so thoughtful and was so committed to making sure that everyone was ready for trials coming up, along with Worlds and Commonwealth. So it was just Ryan was really, really helpful, and we're also grateful for that. And we just kind of leaned on each other as teammates, and that's kind of what got us through it. It was definitely hard, but I think we came out the other side, and we performed really well at both international meets.
Yeah. You're younger, 15 in high school, and I got a lot going on. And, so I guess when I was having a conversation with Ben at the time, it was like he didn't want to influence you absolutely in any way. Was there any thought from your end and your family's end at all to maybe follow Ben at all at that point in time?
I wasn't really thinking exactly like what I was gonna do right after he left. I think I was just in a bit of shock, just like everyone else. But I just think for me to go all the way to Europe would be a really big commitment for me and my
Yeah.
family since I am so young. So
Hmm.
um, it's been definitely kind of a thought process of what I should do heading into this year. And I'm really happy with everyone surrounded me, like from Canada and all the coaches that have really collaborated really well and helped me find out my best training programs. And I'm kind of doing a hybrid approach with HBCO and Sarasota Sharks with Brent Arkey. And I came down here last year actually
Mm.
to because of COVID, it was just getting crazy in Canada, and like
Mm.
we kept getting pulled out of the water and things like that. If you tested positive, we were like testing every day. So I came down here because of COVID, and I kind of got a taste of what it's like at his club, and I just absolutely loved it with the training partners and Brent's an amazing coach. I love his sets, and the culture that he's created here is just amazing. So to have this hybrid, it's been really good so far.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I did say that there's a couple of people in the audience who have questions. I may as well just throw a couple in early. So let's get them going here. So let's have a look at this one. This is from Belle from Halifax. Are you going to be swimming the Toronto World Cup event in October?
Yes, I'll be swimming that. I'll
Okay.
be just kind of back from Florida by then, I think. So yeah, I'm excited for that because I think it's at the T-Pass pool, which is where HBCO trains at every day. So it's a familiar pool for me.
Excellent. You'll be there. So you did say you had a couple of weeks off, and then you've been training for a few weeks now, right?
Yeah, I'm
Right.
starting my 3rd week of training again.
Okay, there you go. So, just a question on that, like, what does early season work look for you, or look like for you? Because I mean, when I look at you, it's nuts. Like to see the events that you swim everything from the 100 to the 1500, and then you swim all the strokes, and then you swim the IM. So it's like when you're doing early season work just up front, what are you trying to do early on?
Well, Brent kind of made a plan. He kind of showed it to me. So the first week I wasn't there for half of it, but it was freestyle week, and then I went into a breaststroke week, then I went to backstroke, and now we're on fly week now.
Oh,
And then kind of building up into doing all IMs and all freestyle. So we started off quite slow, focusing on a lot of technique, and we still are kind of building, but slowly it's kind of progressed. But we're just focusing a lot on technique and a lot of the details, a lot of turns, a lot of dives, stuff like that. But
hmm,
we're starting to ramp up now, going into September, or into September now, but going to September, October. So yeah, we started off pretty slow, but I think that's the best way to do it, just because it is a long season. But we ramp up pretty fast after that.
wow. When you say a week of each stroke type thing, what does that mean exactly? Are you tell me what that means?
Yeah, so it doesn't mean like we're only doing fly, we're only doing breaststroke or anything like
Okay.
that. Just like that's kind of the main focus of each practice. Like
Hmm.
say in the warm-ups, we would doing a lot of fly work like this week.
Right.
And then the main sets, we would be a lot more heavy on fly. But in the weeks previously, like we wouldn't be doing any fly. So we were just adding in each stroke each time, each week. So that like say the breaststroke week, we'd only doing breaststroke and freestyle. We wouldn't do any backstroke. And then the next week we would add backstroke in. So it'd be backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle. And then now we're adding the fly in. So it's the whole IM now. So it's just we're
Right.
kind of slowly adding in the strokes opposite of how like an IM race
Right.
would be. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to look over here at this screen for a second. So my eyes are going this way. Let me read some times out for you here. Okay. These are your best times from what the internet's telling me right now. So 200 freestyle, 154.7. What? That's crazy. 400 freestyle. You break 4 minutes for the first time, 359, huge barrier to get under.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk about the 400 free in a minute. 800 free, 825. Is that correct? That's still your best?
That's from the Olympics.
Okay, that was Tokyo. 1500, 615. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. I can't even relate to that. 200 fly, 205, right? Oh, man, that was a massive swim. 205, 2. And then the 200 IM, 2087, and 400 IM, 429. What? I mean, how is this possible to do all these events at this kind of speed?
Um, honestly, I feel like I've always kind of been a multi-event swimmer. Since I was like around 12, I've just always loved doing a bunch of different events, especially the IMs, just because it is all 4 strokes. And
Mm,
training wise, I've really enjoyed it as well. And going into the Olympic year, well, it was going to be the Olympic year, but it wasn't. When I was 13, I sat down with my coach at the time, Kevin, and I talked about what was the most feasible FINA A time that I could make heading in to trials, and it was the 1500 freestyle. And that's when I started to focus on distance free events, because before I was mostly just 400 and down when it came to IMs or freestyles or flies.
mm,
Um, and that's why I really kind of went off to distance events for that little while. And then going to Tokyo, I focused on the 800 as well. And then since I did so much freestyle training, I was doing 0 IM training. My 400 and my 200 free got better. And I didn't even end up swimming the 1500 at trials, just because I don't think the 1500 is where I have the most potential in at all.
mm.
So now, like last season and now this season, the events that I'm focusing on are none of them are the freestyle distance events. Obviously 400 free, but not like the 815, just because I think I have the most potential in 400 and under events, because I think I'm more of a middle distance swimmer. but definitely training that much distance freestyle for those 2 years really helped kind of have my aerobic baseline and really helped me just condition myself, and definitely helps me on the end of 400 IMs and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's go to another question here. I'll throw in one from Darren. Says, hello. Looking back, what's your favorite race and which competition was it? Do you have a favorite from the summer?
I think honestly, I really liked the 400 free at Commonwealth Games, and basically that entire night, because it was the last night and it was going in the morning. I did not feel good at all. Like I felt terrible. Like I was obviously not going all in because I knew that I didn't have to go all out to make the final, so I needed to preserve a bit of energy for the final. But even going slower, I still felt absolutely terrible. So I had like the longest nap. I had like a 3-hour nap. I was just getting ready for the 400 free at night, and as soon as I hit the water at night, I felt like a completely new swimmer, and it was an amazing race. It was so fun to race Titmus, obviously. It was just very cool, and I'm very grateful for that experience. And then I don't know, just the energy from the crowd was amazing that night because it was the last night. There was extra energy. And then it was cool because I had like 10 minutes before there was like the 4x1 freestyle after that. And I was the anchor. And I had 10 minutes. So I was actually warming down in the dive tank where you can see just all the crowd. I was literally doing backstroke, and I just saw like the hundreds of people in the stands. And I don't know, just that whole thing. And then I got right back on, like I didn't even really go into the ready room. I just got right back on the blocks and swam. And it just kind of taught me like I am able to do more than one event in a short period of time, and that gave me a lot of confidence heading into the next couple international meets. Since I am like more of a multi-event swimmer, I'm going to have to be juggling things like that.
Yeah, reminds me of Ian Thorpe in 2000 going from the 400 free to the 4x1 relay and then winning the gold medal in Sydney. Do you have different suits that you race in, like for a 400 free as opposed to a sprint event? It might be a different suit or an IM event, you know, like, so does it mess with your mind when you're not able to change suits like that?
I'm kind of funny about my racing suits. A lot of people like really, really tight racing suits. For me, I like a looser racing suit. I don't know what it is. I think when I have too tight of a racing suit on, like my muscles feel compressed and it really hurts my traps. So I don't really change the size or whatever for different races. I'm pretty easygoing that way, but I do like a looser suit. And I actually kind of like a suit wet before I start my race. So I always wet it behind the blocks. But yeah, definitely the one thing that I always have to have is a looser racing suit. I like suits that have been worn in a couple of times. I always kind of stretch them out, see which one's the loosest to wear.
Interesting. What's your go-to suit right now?
I wear a Speedo Valor closeback.
Okay, nice. Are you sponsored by Speedo now?
No, I'm sponsored by Funkita, which is, I think it's an Australian brand.
It is, yeah.
And I wear their training suits in practice every day. I've always worn them. I just absolutely love their suits. They're so comfortable. And I'm working with them right now of developing a racing suit. So that should be exciting. That's coming up.
I mean, Summer, that's nice and cute and all, but like we're talking some real money now. Like you're one of the world's best swimmers. Like we can kind of cash in here. Do you have an agent?
Yeah, I have an agent. His name's Michael Copeland. It's kind of funny how we kind of partnered up together because he actually lived two doors down from me. He's like my neighbor in Toronto. So that's kind of how I met him. And he's worked with a bunch of sporting teams before, and he's very, very he just understands like athletes compared to maybe like someone that isn't an athlete. He understands like you have to always put competing and training first and everything else comes second. So he's been absolutely amazing getting me the Funkita deal, and we're working on other things right now, and it's just been absolutely incredible.
All right. I didn't want to mess with your deals. I was just saying there's a lot of, I mean, you're big time now, big time, right? So let's go back to the 400 free real quick. So at the Worlds, you race Ledecky, and then at Commonwealths, you race Titmus. How was that experience, and what's the difference between the two girls? They're both, incredible, and now you gotta take them on both, singly, but then in Paris, it's going to be kind of, you get them both at the same time, right? I'd imagine, and maybe even before that, I'm not sure, but like Paris is the big one. So what's your thoughts on those two?
They're both incredible swimmers, obviously, and incredible people as well. They're super sweet. And you can just tell that they have so much passion for the sport. And going into the 400 free at Worlds, it was a little bit more unknown just because I hadn't swam on the world stage since Tokyo. But I was really excited because it was the first day and first final for me. And Ledecky is like the greatest, so I know that she's always going to know what to do. You know, she's a big name in the swimming world, and she's very, very experienced as well. So I was just kind of racing to see what I could personally do and try to stay with her as long as possible and just push myself and just know that I can keep up or try to see how close I can keep up. And overall, I was really happy with the race result. And then in Commonwealth, it was very different because it was on the last day. And with Ledecky, I was right beside her, and then with Titmus, she was a few lanes over, so it wasn't as like close, with, like, just lanes wise. And so I couldn't see her as much, so I didn't really kind of feel her there and I don't think I was breathing to the same side for her. Maybe I was for some of it, so I couldn't really see her, but I could obviously feel her presence, and I was just trying to stay up as long as possible. Obviously, she got me on the last bit, but both incredible experiences, and to learn how they race compared to me and to get that experience heading into the Olympics and next World Championships is really important. And just to learn different kinds of racing strategies against the top 2 women in the world for 400 freestyle was really interesting to see.
I mean, that's good that you give them that respect, and they certainly deserve that, and they've earned that. At what point do you start to think to yourself, and maybe it's happened already, like, I can win this race, I'm good enough to beat these two? Has that come into your mind yet, or are you still playing with that thought?
I don't think I've ever really gone into a race where I like kind of expect to win, or I think I like deserve to win or should win. I think I just kind of focus on more. I know like all the training I've put in heading into it, and I've trained so hard for this, so I need to maximize whatever I'm able or capable of doing, and whatever that is, that's whatever it is. But I don't think I ever will focus on, okay, I'm ready to beat them or whatever. I'm just focused on, I'm ready to swim my absolute best and hardest and smartest. So that's all I'm really focusing on, more individually rather than focusing on other people.
What is it then, like when you do come up against next to them, and you kind of, like you said, you look across and you see them there? I mean, there's some thoughts that are going on in your head at that point in time. Like, where's your head? Are you focused on your technique solely, or are you looking across and trying to find some extra push, or what's happening with you?
When I'm racing, I feel like a lot of people are like swimmers are the same this way. Like nothing really goes through my head. I'm basically numb at that point on autopilot, just kind of doing what I would ever do in training, but obviously a lot more like faster and elevated. Usually I'm just thinking about my kick, always trying to kick harder and keeping up my tempo in and out of the turns as well, focusing on that and just making sure that there isn't a moment where they just kind of break away and just keep going from that. You just got to keep on them and just stay there, rather than just letting them slowly slip away from you. So you just got to be like mentally really, really focused on exactly what you're doing, but at the same time not focusing on where you're placing your hand in the water or exactly what you should be changing your technique. I think you just got to keep going, and just kind of keep chasing, or if you're in the lead, just keep leading and don't let people close in on you, and see kind of where that is. But I feel like it's different. It's so different. Racing is so different when you're not leading. It's obviously a lot easier to chase someone than to lead, but I also enjoy leading races as well. And yeah, I've learned many different races from Worlds and Commonwealths about what's the difference between leading and chasing, and what I should be changing in both.
Right. Interesting. I like that. I mean, you're getting incredible experience for a young woman now, swimming on the world stage, Commonwealth Games, all these different places, getting some really good experience young. You do break through this year and win your first world championship. You're a world champion, right? Like, so what was that like right before that moment, where you kind of the build up to the race? Was the first world championship the 200 fly or the 400 IM?
200 fly.
So 2 fly. So like, let's take me back to that day where the build up to possibly becoming a world champion for the first time. Is that nerve wracking for you?
I don't think so. I think to fly, it's just you have to accept the pain, and realize that like you have to just stay, like you just have to realize that you can push on that last 50, not give up. Going into it, I don't really remember much. I think I was just kind of numb and just trusted my training. I don't do a lot of fly training actually, but I know that I have a lot of endurance from freestyle sets and stuff like that. But I just know that like I just have to keep pushing and on that last 50, just get my hand on the wall and time my finish properly. And then during the race, I just remember like I wasn't out first at the 50. I'm not sure about the 100. I don't think I was first either. But I just kind of trusted my race plan, and I know that if I go out too fast, then I won't have my second half. Because I just the speed isn't. I'm not super speedy when it comes to fly. I'm more of a even splitter or back halfer in fly. So I trusted my race plan in that first 100, and then the third 50 is where I really needed to hold my stroke and made sure that's like third 50 is really where things can really change in 200 fly. And I held that, and then going into the third 50 turn, I just came off and I had a good breakout, and then I can kind of feel Regan and Haley kind of like on the sides of me. I think that was
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, just like keep going. And then it came down to the last 25 and I couldn't really see them anymore. So I just like, okay, just time your finish properly. And then I just kind of got my hand on the wall. And that moment when I realized I won, it was like I kind of suspected it went like in the last kind of 35 meters-ish that I was going to win. Obviously, anything can change, but it was kind of a very surreal moment for me. And I'll hold it with me forever. But it was so funny because the picture that they have makes me laugh every time. Like all of my friends and family mention it. It's this like really, I'm like that. And it's like I have a big bun on it. I took it. I didn't realize that it was going to be used for like every single thing. So they had that. It was like a big thing on the board. It was just me, and I wasn't smiling in it because I thought it was just for an accreditation photo. That's why I started laughing. It was really funny, but that moment, yeah, it was very surreal. And then getting out of the water, like I didn't even feel any pain because I think just so much adrenaline was going through me. That was the huge crowd, like the roar from the crowd. It was incredible, and it was just so cool to see like what sport brings people together, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah, well, what a performance that was. Such a great race to watch, and like you said, that last 35 where you just kind of took off and owned it, and it was very clear that you were going to become a world champion. That must feel really good to turn around and see it for the first time. I could imagine. Never happened to me, but I'm glad it happened to you. But so are you the type of person who, I mean, look, you're young, right? And so it's hard to predict the future, but like, are you the type of person who says, I want to go to 3 Olympics or 4 Olympics? Or are you saying like, I just want to be the best I can right now and get to Paris and then reevaluate? What do you look at your career as?
Right now I'm just trying to think about like little process things, and I try to focus on each individual season. Obviously I'm working up to Paris, but for now I'm just focusing on this year and what I need to improve on and little details like turns and things like that. But I really haven't thought about like how many Olympics I want to possibly go to or things like that. I'm just focusing on the smaller things, because I think if you think too big picture, it can you kind of lose yourself in it and not realize what you need to do in that moment to get better so you can achieve those things. So I'm just trying to take it more, not day by day, but like slowly, more smaller steps to end up at the bigger goals.
Right. I love that. A lot of young talent around these days. I've just had some conversations with David Popovich. There's just a lot of young, crazy, freaky talent going on around the world. What's your thoughts on all these young kids coming up?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many names to mention that I can mention right now. It's really inspiring to see like people around my age or a bit younger, a bit older, achieving amazing things like world records like David. And it just shows you like it doesn't matter your age. If you just put in the work and you're willing to do the things, you can do it at the world level just like anyone else. And it's incredible to see, and it's very, very inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Summer, what's your superpower? What's the thing that you rely on that's my thing? And then what's your kryptonite? What's the thing that you got to get better at? What are you trying to improve?
I don't know if I have a superpower, but
You have some superpower. Trust me. Yeah.
I'd say just my work ethic, like what I'm willing to do in practice every day has really the main thing that's been able to make me achieve my goals. Like the training that I do in every day is just so important, and you have to be willing to work hard and work the hardest and do whatever you can to maximize your potential. And then I think the thing I need to work on is more like the smaller details. Like when it comes to practice, like I'm pushing myself really hard when it comes to going up and down the pool, but when it comes to technique and turns and the small details like dives and things like that, underwaters or not breathing off the wall, things like that, that's what I really need to improve on. And that's where I have a lot of room in. And it's right there. I just need to be able to mentally like apply myself and
Right.
figure that out in training and apply that in races as well.
Right. Speaking of skills, here's a question that may go towards the skills. Do you have any interest in swimming in the NCAA?
So I decided to go pro around this time last year. So I'm not going to be going the NCAA route. Obviously, it's an amazing route for some swimmers, but I just think for me, since I'm Canadian, so it's not as much of a slam
Right.
dunk as if I was American. But just like flexibility wise and training wise for long course championships, I think that it's best for me if I stick to being pro and I have a lot more flexibility. But that's
Yeah.
just me personally. I think everyone's different, and it kind of depends on what you think for yourself. And right now, I've really been liking the flexibility I've been having, and I love the coaches surrounding me, and it's been great so far.
Well, I mean, I know you said to me about a month ago that you were kind of contemplating on making kind of a firm decision on where you might want to be for Paris, and you've been going back and forth between two groups. Have you now come up with a firm decision of like, this is where I'm going to be in the next 2 years? Like, have you made a decision on that?
For this season, I'm staying here till like October-ish, for now, and then coming back down during the winter time. That's just for this season. Next season, obviously, I'll reevaluate and see if that worked out for me. And that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I really like the hybrid approach. I kind of did it before, and the transition back and forth was very seamless. And to have a good balance of being at home but still getting opportunities here to train
Yeah.
has been really helpful. And yeah, I haven't really thought about next year too much, but I'm just trying to focus on each season individually and seeing where that takes me.
How do the coaches deal with that? Like, obviously you want to be able to look someone in the eye at the World Championships and say, I trust that person wholeheartedly. And when you've got two coaches and maybe, who's going to travel with you and who's going to warm you up and who's going to make those decisions, who's that person you're going to look at and say, yeah, you got me here. Is that difficult when you've got two programs?
I don't think so. I've been kind of used to keep switching coaches for one reason or another the past like couple of years. I've had like 3 or 4 coaches at this point. And I think that I wholeheartedly trust both Brent and Ryan, and they've been so collaborative and helpful through this entire process. And they both really understand me as a swimmer and have the same outlooks on things, which is I really appreciate. And since Ryan's like going to be the head of the Canadian HBCO, he's going to be on the Canadian teams while Brent isn't. So he'll be putting behind the blocks when it comes to like the world stage. But obviously I'll be with Brent on maybe other meets as well. So who knows? But both of them are amazing coaches, and I trust them both really well. And I've spent quite a bit of time with Ryan since I joined HBCO like 2 years ago. So, and this isn't the first time I've been down here to Sarasota. So I've known Brent for a while too. So as long as they've been collaborating really well. So we just keep that up. It's going to be great heading into any meet, and I trust both of them no matter who I'm with.
Do they have different styles, or are they similar in their approach? And that's the approach that you connect with the most. Are they similar or different?
I'd say they're pretty similar in some ways. I feel like every swim coach has their own kind of opinions on little things or bigger things. But both trainings I really like. When I went the 429 and the 205 at that like random meet, that was right after I got back from Florida last time. And I think Brent kind of really helped me realize like my IM is world, like I can be on the world level in that. So that's kind of when I am like bloomed again. Um, so yeah, I think they're both amazing coaches. I love all of the swim sets. Both programs are absolutely incredible. The culture is amazing. So it's just kind of keeping a hybrid and being able to train with different people down here has been also incredible. So having more training partners that swim kind of my same events has been incredible.
I'm just thinking here, what would be your ideal kind of race plan for Paris? Like if you could pick your events that you were going to swim, I mean, excluding the relays, because you're going to be a relay swimmer as well. You're going to have to add on to that. So, but like if you could pick your events for Paris, what would they be, you think?
I don't know yet because I feel like I still haven't really. I'm still exploring new events. Like maybe I'll add in the 100 free or the 100 fly,
Yes,
things like that.
yes. 100 free.
Things like
Trying to
that.
get
So
everyone to
I'm
add the
not.
100
I
free.
I'm not exactly sure what else I'm at Paris, but looking at the event schedule, I think there's a double of I think 200 free and something else. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to swim in Paris yet. I haven't really given it too much thought. Just kind of seeing where each event takes me and where I continue to improve the most. Those are probably the events that I'm going to pick for Paris.
Do you have an event where you're most comfortable? Like when you stand behind the blocks, you're like, all right, this is a no brainer. This is easy for me. Like I'm so comfortable in this one.
I feel like every event I'm pretty comfortable with. Like
It seems that way.
Sorry?
It seems that way, yeah.
But I feel like maybe 2 free, which doesn't. I feel like most people wouldn't guess that, but I feel like 2 free. I've been pretty consistent with like my race plan. It's probably the least nerve wracking, even though they're all pretty nerve wracking. But I think probably 2 free would be my pick when it comes to. I think it's pretty simple for me on what I need to be able to do. But I still feel like I have a lot of room to improve in my 2 free when it comes to speed, like going out and along with turns and little details and things like that. So, but I feel like I don't really overthink any race because it's at the end of the day, it's either 2, 4, 8 laps up and down the pool. That's all you really have to do. And as long as you try your best, that's all you can really do. So I try to simplify it when I'm going into my races.
How do you work on speed? I mean, obviously you've got this endurance and middle distance background where you feel comfortable in these middle distance races, but you do have to improve your speed to compete now at this, at this top level. You got girls swimming, 52 flats. You got, Titmus there in the 200 doing what she's doing. So like you got to get a little bit of speed. So what are you doing right now to improve your speed in practice? Anything specific?
I don't think so. I don't really do a lot of speed work. I do just a lot of like middle distance work, and a lot of like holding, like hundreds or whatever, things like that. And sometimes I do some like 50s, but mostly I don't do a ton of speed work. I do a lot of like blasts, like kick, pull, or swim, like off walls and things like that. But my speed's kind of progressed naturally with my endurance as well. But obviously, speed's super important in all my strokes. So as I continue to improve, I need more speed. So it's definitely a thing that I'll be focusing on heading into Paris.
You said you do a lot of holding and can hold pace really well. Do you have a set that you remember that sticks out in your mind, that you do really well, or is there a kind of a go-to set that you do regularly, maybe for a 200 free or a 400 free that you hold pace on?
Yeah. So basically, like every single Wednesday morning, heading into like the Olympic year of 2020, I would do with Ben 3100s best average on 140. Sometimes it would be different. Sometimes it'd be 27 100s. This was all freestyle swim, or sometimes it'd be 1 kick, 1 pull, 1 swim best average. But usually it was just 31's best average freestyle swim, long course on 140. And I would just try to hold as long as possible my pace, and I think that set really helped me have a lot of confidence and endurance when it came to the 400 free, and along with the 200 free. I know my back half could be really good if I just am able to hold a certain pace for that long. So I did that.
What are you holding in a pace like that, and in a set like that?
I think my best was like minutes to 101s and then a few 59s here and there. But I did that set for like months on end, and I could
Mm.
kind of see my progression over time. Like I started off, this was like a very long time ago. I was going probably like fours. And then I just slowly progressed and got better and better and better, learning in different ways I need to be able to recover in between, and ways I need to keep holding a time where it is, if
Mm.
it's picking up my tempo or adding in more kicks. So it's a lot of mental training as well when it comes to things like that. So that set definitely really helped me with confidence and endurance going into the 2 free and 4 free. And
Yeah.
also like now that I'm doing the IMs, like on the 100 free and the end of a 400 IM, like I have so much confidence going into that because I know that if I'm able to close a 400 free, I'll be able to close a 400 IM.
Right. Right. What about on a bad day? Like you say you have a set like that is a progression where where you do it every week, right? Like what happens if you have a bad week for you where, you know, the week before you go on 59 minutes, 101s. Did you ever have a week where you were just like 103s, 104s, and it was just like irritating? You couldn't figure out why. And is there anything like that for you?
I feel like every athlete has off days.
Hmm.
Every human has off days. I don't think I had like bad weeks on end, but sometimes I'd have a few bad practices. I think that's very normal and it's bound to happen no matter what. And just because we do so much training, and I think on those days, it's just the way that you process them and it's the way that you learn from them is what makes you better. So if I were to have a bad practice, I'd focus on why and how I can fix it. So was it my turns? Was it my mentality? Was it this? Was I too tired? Did I not sleep enough? Did I not eat enough? And then how can I fix it? What can I do heading into the next practice to kind of lift myself back up and improve for the next one?
Mm. I think it's incredible just to listen to you talk. I mean, the maturity again. Again, when I spoke to David, very similar kind of maturity at a young age. It's incredible that you've got this awareness of yourself at 15, now 16, where you can talk to yourself like that and you can work through things like that. Was there ever a point where that was difficult for you, or does that come easy to you?
Um, I've kind of always been like the youngest, and I'm the youngest in my family, or like the youngest in my friend group. So I've been surrounded by very experienced, mature people.
Mm.
And at HBCO, most of them are 20 and up. So I've learned a lot from them. So I just think I've always kind of tried to look at the bigger picture when it comes to bad practices and things like that, and realize that one bad practice does not make or break a swimmer or athlete. So I just kind of always process things like that. And I've kind of applied that to all aspects in my life. So I feel like I've always kind of been like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're also at the point now where across multiple events, again, I'm looking over at your times again. I'm like, I mean, you're at the point where you're really starting to think about world records in multiple events. Have you allowed yourself to get there yet?
Um, Growing up, when it came to like national records and things like that, I remember Kevin was always very adamant for me to not focus on things like that. And I really appreciated that because I feel like records are obviously they're meant to be broken, but you shouldn't kind of eat, sleep, breathe them,
Right.
and kind of they'll come naturally as long as you keep focusing on the process and what you can do to improve rather than focusing on a certain time that you need to try and hit or what you want to achieve. So I've kind of always been I've never really focused on records, even growing up at the smaller levels of records. So I haven't really give any world records any thought. Obviously, my times are getting closer to them as I start to improve more, but they're not my main focus at all, and I don't think they ever will be.
Right. Yeah. It was never my focus either. But, you've got some right there hanging. I mean, this is a stupid question, but it's like if you could break a world record in any one of these events, would there be one that you'd want the first one to be, or are you kind of like open to whatever event comes at that point in time? I'd take it.
Yeah, I would take any world record. I think
Yeah, I
anyone
guess
would,
so.
but they're all obviously insane times. So yeah, anyone, whatever I'm destined to, if I'm ever going to break a world record, whatever that one is, I'll be happy with. I don't think I have a specific event that I specifically want to get the most or anything like that.
What's the
I'd really,
drive then? Like what? I mean, you're doing a lot of work every day. I mean, there's a lot of work you're putting in, and you get a little bit of a break, but then it's like, okay, back at it again. And so, what's driving you? What gets you out of bed every morning?
I just absolutely love the process and pushing myself every day to get better. And just my drive is just, and my goals and life, but especially in swimming, is just to keep improving. And I think if I kind of stick to that, everything else will kind of fall into place, like records or stuff or medals and things like that. So as long as I keep improving every day and I focus on what I should do in that day to make myself better, and that's kind of what gets me out of the bed in the morning and what I sort of focus on. And I think that's the easiest way for someone to continue to improve, is just focus on the smaller things rather than work up to the bigger goals.
There we go. That's what Ken said. Process, process, process. It's you're constantly focusing on the process, and that's good. Do you know Ken?
No.
Okay. Well, Ken knows you. He said you're process driven, so that's good. Keep coming with questions. By the way, I'm looking down, and you guys have stopped asking questions. I need some more questions in here for sure. But what do you do in your downtime? What do you do on a break?
I'm always up at my cottage, which is in Muskoka. It's just on a lake. Usually just hanging out with my friends. I'm pretty normal when I'm outside the pool. I'm just doing what every other teenager does and just chilling or going shopping or watching TV show or school or things like that. So just, I feel like every swimmer, like, we're so hyper focused when we're in the water or doing dryland and things like that. So when we're out of the water, we just want to chill and hang out. And I like it that way.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, we're doing what every other teenager's doing. I got twin girls that are 14. They're on TikTok all the time. How do I get them off TikTok?
Yeah, I have TikTok. I'm kind of addicted to it, which is bad. But I try to stay off it as much as possible, but it's definitely an addicting.
I think they build in addiction. That's what they want it to be. That's like a drug, It's like my girls are on this damn TikTok all day. I'm like, can we get off this? I don't think they can. Like, it's like they put it down and it's like, I need TikTok again. So I got to get them in some sports. So we'll line them up. But here's a question. Let's put this one up. How do you manage your social life while having both morning and afternoon? This is an interesting one for young girls. Like, as your friends may not have the same goals and aspirations and maybe doing the same things that you're doing. So like, they're out on, Friday, Saturday having fun, and you got to go to bed, because you got a big practice Saturday morning. So how do you manage that?
I feel like almost, since I'm online school, so I don't have friends from school. But all my friends for a very long time have all been from swimming, and I've really liked it that way, 'cause to be surrounded by people that get what it's like to be an athlete, a high performance athlete, especially as a swimmer, getting up early in the mornings and having to go to bed early and recovery and things like that. They just understand it, and we're all kind of in the same boat when it comes to things like that. So socially, my social stuff is always at practice when I get to see everyone and we get to train together and things like that. So it's been pretty easy to balance, because it's kind of within itself. Like, when I go to practice, I'm obviously trying to improve and get better, but along with, it's my social aspect of the day.
Right. Here's a question on tips for a great 200 fly. Are there any tips for that?
I feel like I'm not experienced enough to give out like tips, because I don't
Sorry, you're world champion now. Okay, by the way.
I don't really like have certain race plans. Like, when I talked to Ryan before the 2 fly, he just kind of said, just like, hold pace, just get your hand on the wall.
Right.
And I just think you kind of have to let your training take over in that moment. And I just think it's super important in that second 25 of the third 50 to really push, and just don't dread pushing off that wall, but be excited for it and get ready for it and know exactly what you're capable of doing and trust your training and things like that. So I think it's just more, 200 fly is a very mentally challenging race. So if you're able to prepare for that in the right way, I think that's how you're able to achieve your greatest possible time.
You say you don't do a lot of fly in practice, but when you do fly, is it broken up into shorter distances? Do you do anything more than, say, repeat 50s? Do you do repeat hundreds of fly at all?
Like last year, I don't really know exactly what my fly training will look like this year. Maybe it'll look a bit different. But for last year, I'd say I'd mostly just do 50s pace, and then the odd time I'd ask Ryan just to switch out 100 freestyles for 100 flies on our recovery practice Friday mornings, and I'd just do a couple hundreds fly just to kind of understand the pain and mentality when it came to that. But I don't do any like crazy fly sets. I've probably done one with Ben when I started to do more fly, and that kind of set me up mentally for the rest of my swimming career. So Yeah, I don't really go over hundreds. Sometimes I'll do 150s, but that's kind of where I stop. Maybe once in a blue moon I'll do 200, but mostly 50s and hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good question coming up here. I'm going to ask in a sec, but you talk about the mental aspect of fly when you're in a set of training. What is the mental? Are you just talking to yourself? Like, is there kind of a self talk going on of like, push through this? What's happening?
I'm usually trying to figure out the pace time, but I usually just kind of try to control my breathing on the wall and obviously try to stay hydrated and things like that. But
Right.
I just think you kind of, during the training set, you want to kind of think about how you would think in a race. So I just try to think hold stroke or hold, like do an extra kick off this wall or be good on my turns. And I always am checking my times and seeing if those are the times that I should be hitting and what I can do to improve those times and continue to push myself to go faster and faster. So, and along with just kind of keeping it simple and just racing the people beside me, and especially in fly sets, it's so nice to have people to push me in those things like that and to kind of bounce off of each other and get better because of each other. So I think it's just fly is probably the most mentally challenging stroke. I think most swimmers would say that. And it's just, you just have to train your brain the same way in practice that you would in a race.
Right. I like what you said there, control the breathing, because it can be kind of a panic stroke too,
Yeah.
of like, I got to breathe, I need air, and then the interval's coming up, and then you're thinking about pace and all sorts of things, and your brain's starting to race, and it's like, I need oxygen. And for
sure.
you, it's like at the wall, just focus on the breathing and relax, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think fly, you can kind of get caught up in it and you just kind of not feel sorry for yourself, but you're just like, you just kind of
Right.
start to, especially when the pace time is faster, but you just kind of have to keep your breathing as normal as possible. So, because if you do that, it'll actually make the set easier and your body will react to the way you're breathing. And if you start to breathe crazily and really fast, it's going to kind of start to freak out. So you just got to stay as calm as possible when it comes to
Right.
it, especially in fly. Yeah.
There you go. There's a tip for fly. I don't like the word tip. Give me a tip. Like it's almost like you want the easy, solution to fly. Fly ain't easy, like
Have to
it's
accept
work.
that. Yeah.
You got to put the work in, but the relaxation, I like that. That's a good tip. Okay, so someone had a question here. Let's have a look. What does your weekly schedule look like in Dryland?
Yes, I do a lot of dryland. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday are doubles. And
In the pool.
yeah, and
Okay.
then Tuesdays and Thursdays are singles and Saturdays in the morning. And 3 times a week, this is at HBCO, I would do weight sessions,
Hmm.
like an hour-long weight session. And then 3 times a week on those non-double days, I would do a med ball circuit, which is around 30 minutes before practice. And then here, it's a bit different. I do 2 of those weight sessions that I would do back at HBCO on Monday and Friday. And then I do, along with the Sharks Dryland, which is before other practices, and a lot of core work and med ball as well. So the drylands here and there I've kind of meshed together, and I really liked where my dryland is at right now. But I think dryland is so important for swimmers. And since I've added that in, I kind of started to do a lot more dryland when I went to HBCO, and I've seen such a difference in the water. And I think it's really helped like my speed, and it's really helped my catch and how strong I am. So dryland's a really important thing when it comes to swimming for me.
Talk to me about this dryland circuit, this med ball routine. What else is incorporated in it? Obviously, you're using a med ball. What's the weight that you're using, and what are the exercises? And is it a continuous 30 minutes?
It kind of depends. It kind of switches up like every time we do it. Usually using around 6 to 10 pound med ball, just
Mhm.
doing exercises like Russian twists or um, double leg lifts or on the wall like chest pass
Right.
or single
Yep.
arm chest pass or side throws, just stuff like that.
Hmm.
Just a bunch of core and arm things like that.
Right.
Not really focusing on the legs. That's more in the weight room.
Hmm.
And then for weights, it's more like back squats, weighted back squats, or cleans, or RDLs, or hip thrusts, or bench pull, or just like things like that. So it's more uh, heavier weights rather than the med ball is more focused on just core and kind of faster reps.
What kind of reps are you doing in the weight room?
We kind of do like 4 sets of, say for back squat, we would do back squat and kettlebell swings as a set, I think. And it kind of depends on where we are in training. Sometimes we'll do only 4 back squats times 4 with 6 kettlebell swings, or we'll do like 6 back squats or 8 back squats times 4. It's usually sets of 4, and there's like 4 sets of 4 main exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it kind of depends where we're at, and depends on how much weight we're supposed to be doing. So it's kind of changes almost every week, and heading into big meets, obviously we kind of taper that off along with our swimming, and it becomes a lot more speed and power and lighter weights, and slowly just kind of branching off from the max weights efforts. Yeah.
Have you noticed you've started to get stronger, or even maybe noticed that you've started to put on muscle? And are you afraid of putting on muscle in terms of the events that you do? And maybe, no, I'm not saying get bulky. That's not what I'm thinking. You do too much work in the pool to allow yourself to get bulky, but like certainly, you're going to start to build muscle, right? And it's going to start to feel a little different. Mm-hmm. Does it worry you at all, or have you noticed it yet?
I've definitely felt a lot more connected and stronger in the water since I've started weights, like around 2 years ago is when I kind of started to really focus on it. But I just don't think, like, I'm never going to get to the point where I'm overly bulky just because of the events I do. I just don't think it's what I need. And the weights that I do are not like mind-blowingly crazy. Like I don't do super heavy weights compared to more sprinters in our group and things like that. So I'm a lot more focused on reps and technique rather than like really, really heavy weights. And I think I've found a good balance between the two, because obviously you need to have a lot of muscle to perform at your best, but you don't want to have too much for depending on your event.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about the IM. I've never really been an IM coach myself. I've had assistants that have been really good at coaching the IM and working it. But for you, what is that for you? Like, there's different theories in IM. You know, some people train IM completely, like they'll do 200s of IM, and then other people break it down into the strokes of like, well, we're going to train 200 backstroke and 200 breaststroke to get our IM better. What is it for you?
I think I've still kind of figuring that out. Last year, I still did a lot of freestyle training individually, but I balanced that with a lot of IM sets, and I think they kind of bounced off each other and really helped each other to improve in both events, like the 400 free and 400 IM. But when it comes to training, I think I do a lot of IM training together, but in a set that day, if it was an IM set, I would be focusing on, I do more of one stroke. So if like I needed to work on, mostly I need to work on my breaststroke, I do more swimming of breaststroke rather than more fly or backstroke or freestyle. So it's more like I swim all the 4 strokes together, but then each day would be kind of different on what stroke I'd be focusing on for that.
Right. So breaststroke's your weakness, I guess, in your IM, if we can call it that. And you're a taller, lankier, leaner type athlete. Do you have a prototypical breaststroker that you look at to say, that's kind of my body type and that's the way I would swim it, and so maybe I can kind of mimic what they're doing? Do you look at other breaststrokers like that?
Not really, because I feel like everyone is going to be so different on what works for them. Obviously, Brent and Ryan have given me a lot of tips on what I can do to improve my breaststroke, and my techniques changed quite a bit. But it's just finding what works for you, because breaststroke's probably the most complicated technique-wise out of the 4 strokes. So I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to get my technique proper. But yeah, I just think breaststroke is probably in the 400 IM is the most mentally tough part of it, and that's also a part of my training. But being able to have my goal for the 400 IM and 200 IM is being able to have a good labored breaststroke rather than just having a good 100 breaststroke or whatever. It's just being able to have good labored breaststroke and being able to hold technique and mentally being able to keep up my stroke rate and things like that is what I always try to make in training.
Yeah. You broke through this massive barrier of 430 this year. I mean, it seems to be a barrier, right? And you got under it, which was extraordinary. What's your race plan in your 4IM? Like, how do you set it up so that you can finish it the way you want to finish it, but also be strong in the parts where you want to be strong and hold where you need to hold? Like, so talk me through your 400 race strategy.
Yeah, so I think last year I was kind of figuring out what worked for me because
Mm.
I swam compared to Commonwealths and Worlds. I swam the races very differently. I think the 100 fly, I just have to be able to. I have a lot of confidence in that because I can swim the 200 fly, so I know that if I push the 100 fly just enough, it won't overhurt me going into the next 300. So just focusing on not over swimming it and just keeping my stroke rate and keeping my just easy speed going into that 100. And then the backstroke and the breaststroke is where I'm really trying to focusing on going into this season and holding my backstroke, but not
Mm-hmm.
over pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't hurt my breaststroke too much. Just like at Worlds, I overswam the backstroke, so it overhurt my breaststroke.
Mm-hmm.
Other than at Commonwealths, I didn't overswim the backstroke, so I was able to have a better breaststroke split. So, and then obviously the freestyle, I just do whatever I can. But
Just finish.
yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate you letting us get into your brain a little bit. That last question I regretted asking there after I asked it in terms of like your race strategy, because I'm like, you know what, she's young, she's the best in the world. We don't need to know. Like you can show us later. We'll get to see it. I think the impressive thing that I've learned here is that obviously you're super confident in your abilities and you work for what you want, and you're very mature, and I like that. And there's a huge potential in terms of future for you and what we're going to be able to see as fans of swimming and to be able to watch you. Super excited about it. Thanks for letting us in today in terms of
Thank
the
you
way you
so
think.
much.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and I think you've gained a lot of fans around the world if they weren't already. They certainly will be after this. So appreciate your time and energy, and good luck with the next part of the season. So what's the immediate goal? Are you going to World Short Course?
I haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet, just because I've been away from home for so long with the 2 main championship meets last year, and it was just a lot of traveling for me. So I haven't really made my decision yet, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. Well, you're back at work, you're back training, back at it, and it's exciting for us. So good luck with everything, Summer. I appreciate this. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.